character, so he wants to use a guard. So I want to ask you, when you write about a larger-than-life characters, and before this, your books, The Meadow, have written about victims and their families. The other books look into the state establishment. When you look at someone like this, who has a story around him, who's so larger than life, what goes on in your mind? Is there a different approach to it?
I think you've got to take a refracted approach and tell an individual's story through their relationships with other people as well as what they write. Because the way they're perceived by other people is very often a very interesting way of understanding the psychology. And one thing to say here is none of this is about defending the indefensible. You know, like people will ask, why would you bother? You know, bad things were done and thousands of people have died, and why would you bother? But if you look at, we'll get to the answer now, but if you look at the Third Reich, if you look at the Russian Revolution, if you look at the great events in history that have happened, enormously important books are coming from Germany and Russia, written in German and Russian, which are providing psychology around those characters. The film Downfall that came out of Germany, set in the bunker, you know, it's important to be able to understand the relationships and the figures that come out of this epoch in order that we can understand the epoch and how we relate to it. So, how do we build up a composite figure? By refracted knowledge. The more people, the wives, the children, how did the sons see him? Was he an abusive father? It turns out he was. How did the wives perceive him? Some lovingly, others not. You know, one certainly ran. And how did his life begin? He began as a boy racer, an elegant boy in the hood, driving a gold Mercedes, and crashing around town, being a bit of a ladies' man. And actually that evolution from there into an ascetic, a man who sculpted his beard to look like the Mahdi, who appeared in a cave setting so that he looked more holy, and who really carefully placed himself in his environment, that becomes as relevant. You have a messianic figure, a figure who's also an ego, self-delusional, and a father, and it's a much more complete picture.
I've been asked to wind up, so I have a last question before we allow the audience to ask questions, and that is a combination of two things. One, what brings you again and again to this subject of jihad and terror, and the other is and you were saying something of this yesterday, and I was thinking about it last night, about some of your own notions and certainties that have been shattered over these years, and repeatedly you revisit them and you think about it. So a combination of this, what takes you back, and what certainties have become undone?
I think we're living in times of chaos where we need more understanding. I need that myself, so it's a personal quest for more understanding. I also have become increasingly untrusting of a lot of the media that's in the mass domain. It's either vested or paid for news, and it's full of errors. Simple facts, including people's relationships, are spun as truths and then repeated time and time again through the echo chamber of the internet, and they're palpably wrong. The government also controls narratives very successfully nowadays, and it's less easy for us to find primary sources. And so I think the onus is on us, it comes back to us, to find ways of doing this free of vested interests, in ways that give balance to very important stories that we're living in now. We're in a tinderbox. India-Pakistan can be a tinderbox. The Jihad Factory, it's a tinderbox. Understanding precisely how that works, more precisely, knowing there are Talibans, not Taliban, knowing the difference between the modules and southern Punjab, etc. It may not make for a great read, but in my own head, it's part of my education as to how these movements come about. And let's avoid exaggeration. Let's avoid that. Let's avoid